about this organization and function of nervous system. The organization and function of nervous system. Then define the cell of the nervous system. That is, you will be explaining the neurons and their function. Okay. Then function and the key importance of neurons. Then relate cellular and structural specializations in nervous system and how the nervous system works. Okay, and those are the objectives. So nervous system means that's a controlling center of your body. It's a controlling center of your body. The nervous system decides what you have to do, what you decide, your intelligence, your memory, your vision, your sensory function, your motor function, then everything. In fact, your body, complete body is controlled by nervous system. Okay. So, in functions of nervous system, you will study about the sensory input, then motor output. Okay. So, in that, where the integration process is taking place, all these things, this brain is the integration area. Sensory input is the impulse that is going to the brain, and then the brain is relaying and decide according to the sensory input. For example, you see a snake, you keep running with your leg. You see water, you want to take the water and drink. Okay, so this brain decides what you should do. Okay, not only sensory eye. For example, you taste sweet or tasty food, you open your mouth and eat. So taste is one sensory input. Likewise, you have different types of sensory input. Okay, so this is the basic understanding about the nervous system. This is the basic understanding about the nervous system. So in the brain, you have see this central nervous system as well as peripheral nervous system. In central nervous system, you will study only about the brain and spinal cord. Okay, we call it as upper motor neurons. Whereas in peripheral nervous system, you will study about 12 pairs of cranial nerves and 31 pairs of spinal nerves. Okay, so ganglia, I will tell you what is ganglia when I teach it on. Okay, so you have 12 pairs of cranial nerves and 31 pairs of spinal nerves. You have 31 pairs of spinal nerves, 12 pairs of cranial nerves and 31 pairs of spinal nerves. So in this 12 pairs of cranial nerve and spinal nerve, there are something called autonomic nervous system. So this is what your whole nervous system is made of. Okay, this is what the whole brain nervous system is made up of. Central nervous system as well as the peripheral nervous system. Okay, so now here you see, as I told you, in central nervous system you will study about the brain, you will study about the brain and the spinal cord. Okay, so you will understand how the brain integrates and how it controls the full body. Okay, whereas in peripheral nervous system, as I told you, you will study about 12 pairs of cranial nerves and 31 pairs of spinal nerves. Okay, so these nerves are connected to the central nervous system. All these nerves are coming from the central nervous system. Since the 12 pairs of cranial nerves originates inside the cranium, we call it as cranial nerves. Whereas since 31 pairs of spinal nerves originates in the spinal cord, we call that as spinal nerves. Okay, so in that you have the sensory as well as motor. Sensory as well as motor. Sensory means, suppose when you touch a fire, the pain, the heat pain goes to your brain. So that is the sensory information is taken towards the brain. Those nerve fibers are called as sensory nerve fibers, are also called as afferent fibers, afferent nerves. Okay, or in some book they mention it as centripetal nerves. Then in motor, that is when a response comes to stimulus, like when you see water, you take with your hand and drink. So some impulse has to be generated in the brain and spinal cord, and it has to come through the nerve to your muscle. So from the central nervous system it is coming to the periphery, so that's why it's called as motor, that is efferent nerve fibers, also called as centrifugal nerves. Okay, so it consists of motor nerve fibers. So motor means coming from brain and spinal cord towards the periphery. Sensory means the information going from periphery towards the brain and spinal cord. So in this we have two divisions. One is somatic, that is the ordinary nervous system, and the next two categories autonomic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system. So know the word autonomous. Autonomous means free functioning. So you can imagine. So in your body, whichever nerve is functioning freely without your control, we call it as autonomic nervous system. We call it as autonomic nervous system. So in that, all the visceral organs, for example, stomach, liver, kidney, heart, then anything, any visceral organs, intestines, everything are innervated by autonomic nervous system. That is a branch of the motor nervous system. Okay, so it conducts impulse from the CNS. So in autonomic nervous system itself, two divisions: sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sympathetic and parasympathetic. I'll explain you how the sympathetic and parasympathetic nerves are acting in a balance and controlling the visceral organs. Okay. So next, coming to histology, that is the microscopic study of nervous tissues. Okay, nervous tissues. There are two types of nervous cells. One is the neuron. So neuron is the structural and functional unit of nervous system. Neuron is the structural and functional unit of nervous system. So, if you look at the neurons, you know, the whole brain, spinal cord, peripheral nerves, everywhere the neurons are distributed. Okay, but neuron is the cell, nervous cell. Okay, that is conducting the electric impulse, action potentials. Okay, so in the whole nervous tissues, 20% of the cells are neurons, and remaining 80% of the cells are supportive cells. Okay, we call that as glial cells, GLIA, yeah, glial cells. Okay, so you can see here 20% of the cells in the whole nervous tissues, nervous system is neuron, and remaining 80% are the glial cells, that is the supportive cells. The glial cells support the full neurons in different form. Okay, some of the glial cells show you where all the supportive glial cells are. One is Schwann cells, found by Theodor Schwann. Okay, so he is a person who found this cell in the neurons. So that's why it is called as Schwann cells. Then next, satellite cells. These cells are present in the ganglion. Okay, in association, in support of the ganglion cell bodies. I mean nerve cell body, the neuron cell bodies. Then oligodendrites are nothing but the myelin sheath producing cells. Okay, each and every neurons, I mean the part of the neuron cell is covered by myelin sheath. You understand understand now. I'll show you. Then astrocytes, they are present in the cerebrum, I mean inside the cranial cavity. Microglia is spread all over the nervous tissue and the ependymal cells. Okay, I'll show you. You will understand where all these cells are located and what is their function. So they mainly support the neurons. All the cells, they mainly support the neurons and help the neuron activity. So you can see the type of neuron cells. One is the in peripheral nervous system you have satellite cells and the Schwann cells. I'll tell you. For example, this is the nerve fibers that's coming out from the spinal cord and it is forming the ganglion. From the ganglion, the axon. Ganglion is nothing but cluster of nerve cell bodies. That is the neuron cell bodies. From the ganglion, the axon travels. If you look at the histology appearance of ganglion, this is the nerve cell body, and in the periphery you have the satellite cells. Okay, these satellite cells are present in the ganglion. Then Schwann cells. Okay, for example, I cut this axon, and this is axon, and these Schwann's axons are covered by the myelin sheath like this. The axons are covered by myelin sheath like this. Okay, so in the myelin sheath there is a cell called Schwann's like this. So study says that when there is damage to this new axon, the Schwann cells help in the repairing process of this axon. That's what some literature is telling about the presence and importance of Schwann cells. In the central nervous system, the oligodendrites are present. Okay, that is nothing but it is also present in the peripheral nervous system. They are the myelin sheath producing cells. Okay, so this is the myelin sheath. This is the myelin sheath. Okay, myelin sheath is covering the axon. So these myelin sheaths are produced by these oligodendrites. Okay, then astrocyte cells, they are formed in the central nervous system, that is in the brain and spinal cord, help in the formation of blood-brain barrier. Okay, BBB. What is this BBB? So these are some of the special cells that filters, that produces the cerebrospinal fluid. So you will understand in the neuroanatomy where the cerebrospinal fluid is produced and secreted. Okay, now we are going into the fundamentals. So just know that the blood-brain barrier, which is also called as the choroid plexus, okay, in the ventricles of the brain, we call it as blood-brain barriers. They filter the plasma of the blood and produces CSF. Then it also does a secretory function like neurotrophic factors, neurotransmitters. Okay, there are many neurotransmitters like acetylcholine and all this stuff. Okay, so these neurotransmitters substances are also secreted by these astrocytes. Then, as I told you, the exchange of ions. Okay, that is astrocytes are helping in the exchange of ions in the nerve cells. Okay, then microglia are the immune cells. Okay, if any bacteria goes, they go and swallow them. The microglia will swallow the bacteria that is present in the brain and spinal cord tissues. Then ependymal cells, the cells are also present in the in between the cells that acts as a barriers. Okay, so these are some of the neuroglia, that is the supportive cells in the nervous tissue. Don't think that full brain spinal cord nerves are compacted with neurons. Neurons are just only 20%, and remaining 80% of the cells are by the supportive cells, that is the glial cells. Okay, so next we will go. Here you can see astrocyte cells are present in the brain and spinal cord, and they are in support with the neurons. This is the axons. Okay, Then this is the cell body, the neuron body. Okay, then microglia cells, they swallow the bacteria. They are also present in the CNS. Ependymal cells are the fluid cells that is acting as a blood-brain barrier. Satellite cells are present in the axon. I mean, this neuron. See, actually, I told you this is a neuron. This is a unipolar neuron. That is one cell body and one axon is there. Around the cell body, you have this location of this. See, this is a nucleus, and this is a cell body, and this is axon. Okay, it's a unipolar neuron. So here you have this satellite cells in the periphery of the neurons. Okay, so next is the oligodendrites. They are present. See, this is a neuron. The yellow color tube is neuron. Around the neuron, you have the sheath. That is a myelin sheath. These myelin sheaths are produced by these oligodendrites. Okay, so newborn baby, they don't have myelin sheaths. So from birth till 2 years, these myelination production of myelin sheaths around the axon is taking place. Production of myelin sheath around the axon is taking place. So this is the specialty. So it takes 2 complete years after birth for formation of full myelin sheath in the nervous system. That's why the Babinski sign. So you will know in neurological examination what is Babinski sign. So this Babinski sign is positive in newborn baby. After 2 years, this Babinski sign is becoming negative. Okay, so next, so astrocytes, as I told you, it is found in the central nervous system, okay, in the brain, and it is attached to the, it is supporting the neuron cells. Okay, next is the, it functions, the main function is support. Okay, and also the nerve connections are helped by nerve. One neuron is connected to the other neuron by synapse. Okay, so and it is also controlling the blood-brain barrier cells, the choroid plexus cells. Okay, you will neural anatomy you will understand. So microglia, they are mainly swallowing the bacteria. That is the phagocytic function. Okay, that is the function of my microglial cells that is scattered all over the brain and spinal cord. Then ependymal cells are helpful in producing the cerebrospinal fluid. Okay, there are around 150 ml of cerebrospinal fluid circulating around the brain and spinal cord in the subarachnoid space. So this cerebrospinal fluid are secreted by these cells. Okay, here you have the capillary blood vessels. This is the ventricle of the brain. So what happens? These cells will filter the plasma and leave around 750 ml of CSF is produced in 24 hours time. Okay, by this. So you can ask, sir, what's that? The total volume is only 150 ml, but 750 ml is produced. That means what? The remaining CSF 50 ml will go back into the venous, dural venous sinus through the arachnoid uvula. You will understand this in the neuroanatomy, don't worry. Okay, just know that ependymal cells are the blood-brain barrier cells, also called as choroid plexus. Choroid, choroid plexus. Okay, so you can Google it. When you're free, just Google the word choroid plexus, you will know where it is located. I will show you, don't worry. Then oligodendrites, as I told you, they are producing, this is the oligodendrites, this is a myelin sheath. This is the myelin sheath. This is the myelin sheath. Okay, so this myelin sheath is produced by, this myelin sheath is produced by oligodendrite cells. Okay, Next, the Schwann cells, as I told you, it's also called as neurylmocyte. It's also called as neurylmocyte. Okay, so they are present in the nerve axons, which is enclosed in the myelin sheath. Okay, as you can see here, uh, for example, this is the nerve cell body, and the axon is extending. This axon is covered by this myelin sheath, like this axon is covered by myelin sheath, like this, and in the myelin sheath you have this Schwann cells. Okay, it is found by the person called Theodor Schwann. You can Google it. Theodor. Theodor Schwann. Okay, he's the one who found these cells. Okay, next, satellite cells. As I told you, there is a nucleus, and this is the cell body. This is the cell body, and this is axon. Okay, so in the border you have these satellite cells that is supporting the cell bodies in the ganglia. Mainly these satellite cells are found in the ganglion. What is a ganglion? It's a cluster of nerve cell body. You will understand now what is ganglion. Okay, so all these are the importance of these glial cells. Let's go with the neuron. So neuron is the structural and functional unit of nervous system. Neuron is the structural and functional unit of nervous system. Okay, so you can see there are neurons are the structural and functional unit of nervous system. So as I told you, they are the special type of cells. We call it as nerve cells. So I will show the and explain. Okay, here you see there is a cell means there should be nucleus, cytoplasm, and cell membrane, isn't it? So this is the cell membrane, and this is the central nucleus, and here you have the cytoplasm. Okay, but in the neuron there are neuron cells, there are extension of the cell membrane. This extension is called as the dendrites. This extension is called as the dendrites. Okay, there can be one dendrite, or there can be many dendrite, or there can be two dendrite. Okay, so these are all the dendrites. Okay, and one extension is called as axon. This extension is called as the axon. It's continuation of this nerve cell. Axon is continuation of this nerve cell. Okay, so for example, you see these axons are covered by a blue color sheath. This is called as myelin sheath. This is called as the myelin sheath. Okay, this myelin sheath is produced by oligodendrocyte cells. Okay, so what happens? This myelin sheath comes and condenses here. This myelin sheath it condenses here. Again, it grows and condenses here. Again, it grows and condenses here. Again, this point where the myelin sheath condenses, we call it as axon hillock. Sorry, this is called as node of Ronvier. This is called as node of Ronvier. Okay, there are the importance of myelin sheath is, for example, if nerve, it helps in the faster conduction of action potential nerve impulse. Okay, so for example, if a nerve impulse is traveling in 10 km per hour speed, in the myelin sheath, it can travel 100 km per hour sheath per hour. Okay. In the nerve, it is the myelin sheath helps in the faster conductivity of electric impulse. Faster conductivity of electric impulse. So the Schwann cells are present here in between each myelin sheath. The Schwann cells are present here. Okay. You can see, you can see this in the previous slide. Here you see this is the Shavances. This is the Shavances. Okay, and this is the Shavansel, and this is the myelin sheath. Okay, this is the myelin sheath. You can see this is the Shavan cells. Okay, so then the neck of the cell where the axon starts is called as axon hillock. It is called as axon hillock. Okay, so this axon travels all the way. This axon is traveling all the way to the end, and it goes and ends in some place. Okay, it can end with another neuron. For example, okay, this can end with this dendrite. Okay, so this type of neuron is called as axodendrite. Axodendrite neuron, because this axon is ending in another dendrite. Okay, of course, if this axon, in case if this axon goes and ends in other axon, this is axon, isn't it? This is axon, and all these are the dendrites. Okay, so this axon ends in other axon. We call it as axonic, axonic, axonic neuron. We call it as axonic neuron. Okay. Suppose if this axon ends on a skeletal muscle like this, you would have studied neuromuscular junction, isn't it? That is, this axon is going and ending on the skeletal muscle here like this. We call it as axosomatic neuron. Yeah. So this is somatic organ. This muscle is a somatic organ. So we call this neuron axosomatic. This is one type of classification of neurons. I think this is not mentioned in the slide, but some book they mention like this: axonic, axodendrite, and axosomatic neurons. Okay. So next slide. So now you know the parts. This is uh, nucleus, in cytoplasm there are more amount of mitochondria, and this mitochondria can travel inside the axon. Okay, then you have the dendrites here, and followed by one one single axon. Okay, so there is classification of neurons. I'll tell you. Yes. Okay. So I will tell the classification of neurons and the type of classification. We will go to the next slide. Okay, dendrites are the receiving structure. Dendrites, they receive the impulse. Axon, they take away the impulse. Dendrites, they are receiving the impulse. Okay, dendrite. Whereas axon, they take the impulse away. Axon, they take the impulse away. Okay. So greater potential changes the membrane potential value. Then the axons, this junction is called as axon hillock. This axon going and ending, this axon is going and ending in the next dendrite. So what happens? The electric impulse passes in this direction and gives to the next dendrite. This dendrite takes the electric impulse and to the nerve cell body. From the cell body in the axon hillock, it goes along again to the other neurons, any organs or whatever it is. So the nerve impulse always travels in one way direction like this. The action potential, it travels always in one way direction. Okay, So this is what you have to understand here. Then the axon, it is a nerve action potential conducting tube. Okay, it is nothing but the continuation of the cell. Okay, so this axon generates and transmits the nerve impulse, and this is the axon hillock. So the electric impulse comes in this direction, comes to the cell body. Now cell body decide to transmit the electric impulse. So the electric impulse is going away from the cell body. So this is called as motor neuron. This is called as motor neuron. Whereas from and it is reaching the somatic organs like muscle is here. There is a muscle. Okay, there is a muscle in this region. So this is motor neuron. Whereas in sensory neuron, what happens? This axon. Suppose if an ant bites here, if one ant is biting the skin here, so the pain impulse comes through this axon and it goes to the nerve cell body. This cell body again transmits the nerve impulse to this other adjacent neuron. Okay, so this is sensory neuron. Some nerve they can transport the action potential in both the direction. From the spinal cord, it can bring to the muscle. From the muscle, it can take the spinal cord. So this is called as mixed neuron. This is called as mixed neuron. So there are three types of neurons: sensory neuron, motor neuron, and the mixed neuron. Okay, there are three types of neuron: sensory neuron, motor neuron, and the mixed neuron. Okay, so this is what you have to understand here. So as I told you, myelin sheath, it is a covering of the nerve. It is a covering sheath. It is covering sheath of the nerve fiber. It consists of whitish, fatty, and segmented sheath-like structure. Okay, it protects the axon, and it is helpful in faster conducting, increasing the speed of the nerve impulse. Okay, in old age, this demyelinating disease is common, like Guillain-Barré syndrome. Okay, then. There are many motor neuron disease. Okay, so demyelinating motor neuron disease is common. Okay, so when there is demyelination, the patient cannot, the action potential cannot reach the muscle, so the muscle gets paralyzed. Okay, so this you can see in Guillain-Barré syndrome. This is very famous. 1 in 100% they get syndrome, that is the demyelinating motor neuron disease. This is demyelinating. Myelination means formation of myelin sheath. Demyelination means disappearance of this myelin sheath. This takes place in some autoimmune diseases. Okay, suddenly one fine day the patient suffers few disease, I mean few fever, and then he start to feel weakness in the leg, then to the back muscles, then to the chest muscles, then upper limb, then at chronic stage he stops breathing also, even the diaphragm doesn't work. So we have to put these kind of patients in the ventilator. We have to put this kind of patients in ventilator. Okay, so because the diaphragm, which is the main muscle of respiration, is also getting paralyzed. Okay, then for 1 month you keep in ventilator, suddenly one fine day it start to breathe, remyelination takes place. So this is the surprise of nature. So we cannot say, "Ah, he will not breathe anymore and we can disconnect the ventilator and kill him." It's not. Okay. In Guillain-Barré syndrome, there are hopes for the patient to recover. I have seen many cases in my life, patients who recover and come to a normal life. Okay. You can Google it. Go to YouTube, type Guillain-Barré syndrome. You will see. Okay, next. So here is the once, as I told you, the axon is passing and the myelin sheath is covering, and the myelin sheath is covering, and here you can see the Schwann cells, which helps in repair process of this axon. If this axon is damaged, you know what, there is no regeneration property for nerve cells. You have to keep this in mind. Muscle cells, when it damages, it doesn't multiply. If dog comes and bites your gluteus and take half kilo of your gluteus, that muscle cell fiber is not going to grow back again. Of course, there will be formation of some scar tissues and healing will take place, but the last muscle cell is lost. Likewise, the brain and spinal cord cells are the nerve cells. Once it is damaged, the damage is permanent. Okay, we have to keep this in mind. So, but this savant cells, some literature says it helps in minimal repair of this axon if there is any damage. Okay, the savant cells helps in minimal repair of this axon if there is any damage. And myelin sheaths in the central nervous system, I will tell you. So, as I told you, these myelin sheaths are formed by these oligodendrite cells. These myelin sheaths are formed by these oligodendrite cells, and that allows the formation. Uh, and this kink is called as the node of conveyor. Why? Because during neurotransmission, this kink will help in collecting the ions and then spreading fast. Okay, you will understand the importance of node of Rombier. Okay, then myelin sheaths in the peripheral nervous system. As I told you, all the axons are having this myelin sheaths covering. Okay, all the axons are having this myelin sheaths covering, and the Schwann cells are present in between the myelin sheath. Okay, the myelin sheath is also called as neurolemma. Okay, it is the peripheral bulge of the Schwann cell cytoplasm. We call it as neurolemma. Okay, so as I told you here, you see, when the action potential, the nerve impulse travels, what happens? It comes and reaches the dendrite. From the dendrite, it goes to this cell body. Cell body transmit the impulse to the axon. So you can see the axon is jumping between the node wrong way. So what happens? More electrolytes concentrates here and goes inside the cell and comes outside the cell. Okay, this is called as chemical transmitters, whereas electric transmitters are there. You see the positive ions and the negative ions are traveling here. Okay, the negative ions are outside, the positive ions are present inside the cell, positive charge. Okay, so that's called as saltatory conduction. So this node of Fourier helps in the faster conductivity of chemical transmitters. Okay, now regions of the brain and spinal cord. If you see, there is something called gray matter and white matter. White matter should be white in color, gray matter should be gray in color, isn't it? It's not like that. Okay. So what you see here is the white matter is responsible for sensory conduction, is responsible for having sensory nerve fibers, whereas the gray matter is responsible for having motor fibers, responsible for motor fibers. So when you cut the spinal cord, this is the cross section of spinal cord, and this gray matter is present in the gray matter is present inside the spinal cord. This is a gray matter, the shape of H, and there is a hole called as central canal. There is a hole that is called as central canal. Okay, so what happens here is you have to understand the location of the gray matter and the white matter. You have to understand the location of gray matter and the white matter. Okay, you see in the spinal cord, the gray matter is present inside whereas the white matter is present in the outer surface in the spinal cord. Whereas it is opposite in the brain. You see, if you zoom this, you can see the outer layer is the gray matter, and it is around 4 millimeter thickness. Okay, the gray matter fiber is 4 millimeter thick. Okay, in the outer surface you have this gray matter. You have this gray matter in the outer surface. You can see here. You see, this is the gray matter. This is the gray matter. Okay. Whereas the white matter is present in the inner surface. You can see this is the white matter. Gray matter is carrying the motor fibers. White matter is carrying the sensory fibers. Gray matter is present inside in the spinal cord, whereas outside in the brain. White matter is present outside in the spinal cord and inside in the brain. Okay, these two things we have to remember. Understand? Okay, next, comparison of structural classification of neurons. Okay, neurons as such, when you classify, as I told you, two types of classification. One I told you before, that is axonic, axodendrite, and axosomatic classification. And the next variety of classification is this one, multipolar, bipolar, unipolar. That is, see, follow this picture. This is the nucleus and this is the cell body. There are many dendrites and one single axon. Always all neurons will have only one axon. Okay, there are many dendrites and only one single axon. Whereas in bipolar, this is the nucleus and this is cell body. There is one dendrite and one axon. Bi means two. Multi means many. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Many. Okay. Whereas bi means only two. One dendrite, one axon. See, one dendrite and one axon. Unipolar means there is one cell body and only one axon. You see, this is a cell body and this is only one axon. From axon it divides. That is not important for you. Okay, so this is unipolar neuron. So three types of neuron: unipolar, bipolar, and multipolar. So most of the neurons are multipolar neurons. Okay, in few area like retina of the eye or in the olfactory mucosa where the sense of smell is detected, there you have bipolar neurons. Okay, the unipolar neurons are very rare. Okay, this is present in the brain. The unipolar neurons are, so keep in mind that most of the neurons in the body are multipolar neurons or multipolar neurons. All right. So coming here, comparison of as I told you, you can see in multipolar neurons there is a cell body, many dendrites, one axon. Okay. Then in bipolar neurons, one cell body, one dendrite, and one axon. In unipolar neurons, there is one cell body and that's one single axon. One, one, two, many, multiple. Okay, so these are the three structural classifications of neurons. You have to know. As I told you, multipolar neurons are present in all parts of the body. It's present in the eye retina. Okay, this is the retina of the eye. Light comes and falls. This light is perceived by this, and then there are six layers of cells in the retina that you will see when you are studying the eyeball. Okay, not now. So here you have this multiple bipolar neurons. Okay, and unipolar neurons, they are present in the skin. Okay, now functional classification. One is uh, Previously, what we have seen is a structural classification. Now we are going to see into the functional classification of neurons. As I told you, there is sensory neuron, motor neuron, and mixed neuron. Okay, sensory neuron is also called as afferent. Sensory neuron is also called as afferent. So, what is the afferent sensory neuron? So, for example, if there is a small pin that is pricking your skin, okay, so this wound is taking the pain impulse from the skin towards your spinal cord, then to the brain. Okay, so this impulse is going towards the brain and spinal cord. That's what we call it as afferent neuron. That's what we call it as afferent neuron. Okay, so the motor neurons also called as efferent neuron. So when the pin pricks, the brain identifies here the pricking. Now the brain has to respond. So the brain sends the electric impulse that is generated in the parietal lobe. It comes all the way down to the basal ganglia, then to the spinal cord, then from spinal cord it comes to the motor nerves. Okay, and you have to take the pin from the skin away. That's some motor work, isn't it? So that is what we call it as efferent. That is from the spinal cord, the action potential is coming away towards the muscle. Okay, so that's the motor neurons. Mixed neurons are, as I told you before, it has sensory connection as well as motor connection. Okay, that is the mixed neurons. So maximum nerves are mixed nerve fibers in the body. Pure sensory, if you take the optic nerve, is pure sensory nerve. Okay, it has sensory neurons. Okay, then motor nerves, there are pure motor nerves. Most of the nerves are mixed nerves. Okay,